So let me share the screen. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I, Randhir Kumar Gautam, on behalf of Raffles University, Swadhyay Sahachakra Circle for Creative Co-Learning, Viswanidhan Center for Asian Blossoming, Puducherry and Chennai. On behalf of all these organizations, I welcome you from the bottom of my heart to the very topic of the talk of today's is Subramaniam Bharati, the poet, and his work and the words. It is a moment of extreme pleasure to welcome the guests who are virtually present here to attend this webinar. Honorable Speaker, Professor H.L. Perumal from Department of Anthropology, Pondicherry University. Moderator of today's session, Professor Anand Kumar Giri from Madras Institute of Development Studies, Madras, Chennai. I extend a very warm welcome to Honorable Chairperson of Raffles University, Dr. Justice Meena Vigombar, former Chief Justice of Rajasthan High Court, Professor Dibakar Goli, Vice Chancellor of Raffles University, and all the respected participants, viewers on Zoom platform and also on Facebook platform, and all the respected friends. Let me give a brief introduction to Honorable Speaker, Professor Chilla Perumal. He needs no introduction at all. He's a very famous anthropologist from School of Sciences and International Studies of Pondicherry University. He has more than 22 years of teaching and research experience. His area of specialization includes social cultural anthropology, anthropology of religion, tribal folklore, ethnopoetics. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation. Let me give a brief introduction to Swadhyay Sahachakra. Swadhyay Sahachakra is an initiative of studying and learning together self, culture, societies, and the world. Friends associated with are eager to walk and mediate with new horizons of thinking and new movements of social cultural change in our contemporary world. We study seekers such as Sri Aurobindo, Gandhi, Chittaranjan Das, a creative soul, creative thinker from Odisha, and many others from around the world. We also present our own writing and reflect our own creativity together. We also invite seekers from different fields of life to share with us their visions, lives, and sadhana for a struggle and struggles for creating a world of beauty, dignity, and dialogue. We meet every Sunday or sometimes on Wednesday. We are now nurturing this dialogue, creative talk in collaboration with Department of Humanities and Social Science of Raffles University of Rage and Rage Global Foundation, USA. Today is a very special talk on a very creative thinker, Subramaniam Bharati, as you all know. Subramaniam Bharati was a Tamil poet, and he is known as Mahakavya Bharati, Mahakavi Subramaniam Bharati. He was born on December 11, 1882 in Tamil Brahmin family in Ethiopia, in a village in Tamil Nadu. His poems were filled with the spirit of patriotism. He has revolutionary mind, transformative self, and a pure heart. He was deeply influenced by Bipin Chandrapal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, Aurobindo, but he admired the work of Bal Gangadhar Tilak a lot. Common man used to live in his creations. Mahakavi Subramaniam Bharati devoted a number of poems advocating in powerful language of classless society, gender just society, and casteless society. He condemned in strong terms the economic inequality, and social disparity. He lived in India in that age when all categories of discrimination, all categories of disparities were blindly and fully accepted in the name of religion. He extols the great heritage of Tamilian in almost all his poems. He never accepted British hegemony in any sense. His life is truly inspiring. He dedicated his life for Swaraj, Swadeshi, Sudhar, that is social reform, which is manifested in his language, in his idea of nation and his worldview. With this brief introduction, now I would like to invite Professor Anand Kumar Giri sir to kindly moderate the session. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ranveer, and a warm welcome to my dear and respected. We are grateful to Professor Perumal for his kind sharing with us about Subramanyam Bharati today. And I welcome all friends participants taking part in our conversation, in our search this afternoon. Subramanyam Bharati was a great poet and freedom fighter, and we are looking forward to learning more about him from Professor Chelo Perumal. Subramanyam Bharati fought against existing discriminations. For example, he has a poem called "There is no caste system. It is a sin to divide people on caste basis. The ones who are really a superior class are the ones excelling in being just, wise, educated, and loving." Share his thoughts, maybe up to 40 to 45 minutes. And after that, we are enriched by the presence of Shobana, who is also a great lover of Subramanyam Bharati. We would listen to her thoughts for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will have conversations. So, Professor Chelo Perumal, please.
Good evening to you all, my dear friend Professor Anantagiri and dear Dr. Ranjit Kumar. I'm really happy to be here with you this evening. This event has been organized by the organizations Circle for Creative Learning, Vishwanidham Center for Asia Blossoming, and Raffles University, Nimrana. I'm extremely happy to get an opportunity to speak to you on Subramanya Bharati today. Actually, just 1 month before, we have observed his 100th death anniversary. 100th death anniversary. And Subramanya Bharati, he his works, not only as a poet, as a nationalist, or as a literature, his contributions and works are still relevant today. And there is nothing that I will be telling anything new about Bharati, Subramanya Bharati. All of us know. And it is only we recollect certain things. And by recollecting his contributions, we come to know how relevant he is even now. See, he lived some one century ago. He born just some 130 years ago and died 100 years ago. And even then, his works are relevant. It is very rare, especially in the contemporary literature or contemporary contributors in the fields of art and literature, it is very rare to have the relevance. But the Subramania Bharati's contributions are still relevant. It is extremely relevant. How and why it is relevant? Though he lived a very short duration during the pre-independence period. In fact, he lived only just 39 years. Not even, he didn't complete his 40th years of age. Only 39 years only he lived in this world. But during that short duration of time, what are all he did, that is tremendous, marvelous, very, very extraordinary. See, he is a Tamil writer, he is a poet, he is a journalist, he is an Indian independence activist, he is a social reformer, and also he is a polyglot also. Polyglot means he knows nearly a dozen languages, but he writes a lot. He wrote mostly in Tamil and English, but he is a very good scholar in Sanskrit. He is a good scholar even in Arabic. He knows all the South Indian languages, and because of his great poems, because of his great creative works of poems, he is aptly been called as a Mahakavi. He is a Mahakavi, not just a poet. He is a great poet. He is a great poet of this land India has produced. And not interestingly, he is not only a poet, he wrote in prose also. And interestingly, Tamil language, he wrote a lot in Tamil. Tamil has a very, very long history of literary traditions, starting from Sangam or even prior to the Tolgapiyam, all these things. So more than 2000 years of continuous literary traditions, legacy Tamil has. In such a rich language, in such a rich literature language, he could produce some of the things which has made a breakthrough in Tamil. That is interesting thing. His poems or his prose or a great breakthrough. Till then, till prior to Bharati, we got great poets. This land has seen, Tamil land has seen. Ramalingadigal, Nayanmars, Alvars, even little, if you go to the 12th century, we have Silapadigaram, Silangovadigal. Even if you further go back, a lot of so many literatures, Sangam literature, Pattu Patti, Ettu Togai, and even little go further beyond Tolgapiyam. But in such, even then, his contribution as a producer of the literature, poems and Tamil, he has made a great breakthrough. Until then, the style was different. He has made simplified both prose and poetry in Tamil. Till then, it was highly complicated. It was only the Tamil literary works were only known or comprehensible only to the literati, only to the scholars. So the oral language, okay, common people speak, but literature was purely the product of of the great literary scholars. You can't make out meaning. You can't make out. But he is the one who has simplified, democratized the Tamil language without losing the greatness, without losing the the depthness of the language. And that is as regards poetry. As regards prose, verse, it is Bharati, Subramania Bharati only has created a new. Why new? It is the first type of prose. Until then, it was not that much. Prose was not that strong. Prose was not that strong. It is only Subramania Bharati created the writing style, prose style in Tamil. That is even now it is being continued. And again, he is not only as I told, polyglot. He is a multifaceted personality. It is as he is a literary figure. He actively took part in the independence movement. Another interesting thing, sometimes those who are writing, they don't come to the actual field. He comes to the field. He comes to the field. He was a worker to the core. Not only wrote and published in the newspapers of those times. He himself participated in all the ground level work of propagating the Congress ideals or the independence ideals or the freedom movement ideals to the common people. And he took active part in the Congress of that period. He used to travel all the places. He had been to Varanasi, he had been to Bengal, wherever possible he went. And another interesting thing, here I want to say, he has traveled fairly well, both North India and South India. He was also having a liking to travel outside the country, but unfortunately, it could not happen. In fact, Rabindranath Tagore and could go out of the country. Even he had been to Japan also. So Subramania Bharati also had some likings and to visit the other countries of the world, but he could not go purely because of the constant, continuous suppression or surveillance he faced due to the then British government. He was never allowed to move freely, but he managed everything. He managed. And if I have to tell this, his 39 years of his life, the early life period, he devoted much in South Tamil Nadu. Then after that, he had traveled widely to North India. In fact, he lived for some time in Varanasi also. During that time only, he could learn Sanskrit, Vedic thing, and even he could meet Sister Nivedita. She was the Swami Vivekananda's spiritual hire. He could meet her and he could discuss with her. So he got so many ideals of Swami Vivekananda also. And to the extent that at one point of time, he has composed many poems on Shakti. In one of the poems, he was comparing Shakti, or he was actually mentioning, he was actually highlighting Nivedita as Shakti, as an independent, courageous, typical Indian woman. So then, as I just now told you, first is his early part of his life in South Tamil Nadu, then traveled to so many other parts of the country, especially North India. Then for a long period, he lived in Madras, and then most productive period, he lived in Pondicherry for, for about 10 years. During that time, only most of his masterpieces were compiled and published. But the reason why he had come to Pondicherry, all of us know, because he had taken exile, like Arvind Ghosh or other people, because they can't face all other kinds of arrest and other things, to get rid of the people who have come and lived in Pondicherry. But you can't treat that as a cowardice act. No, not at all. They came and they lived in Pondicherry and continue to do what they wanted to do had they continued in India, then Indian period. Because why Pondicherry? Because Pondicherry was during that time under the French control. Then as regards journals, he wrote, when he was in Madras and also in Pondicherry, he has not only worked in some of the established journals like Swadesh Mitran and other things. He himself started magazines, both in Tamil and English. And I have to tell you one important thing. He is a pioneer for most of the Tamil culture, like artistic, literary, journalistic works. He is the first one to introduce cartoon to the Tamil journals. He himself used to draw. He himself used to draw the cartoons and used to publish. And this way, he was always constantly, continuously working, in spite of the fact that he was facing a lot of financial hurdles. Not only financial hurdles, because he was a person of beyond time. Of he was ridiculed. He was not respected by many people, in spite of the fact that he's great genius. Because the way he walks, the way he gives importance to women, the way he wants to give importance to the lower caste people. In fact, he did some of the revolutionary things. Even now, no people couldn't think of that. He has converted, well, not only converted, he has made a Dalit boy into Brahmin by performing a Upanayana. You know, Subramanya Bharati come from a very orthodox Brahmin family, but he was breaking all those kinds of orthodoxy. He was a most rationalist, modernist, egalitarian, and such a kind of person. The thing is, he not only preached, he not only told the ideas, he not only revealed his ideals in his writings. All those ideals he himself wanted to practice. So, for example, he wanted to see to that women get a lot of upliftment. So he has given that kind of freedom to his own wife. His own wife. There should not be the women were ill-treated, not brought to the public places and all in those days. Whereas whenever Bharati used to go out, he used to bring his wife with her, and then he used to take his wife on the roads, and he will tell his wife, you see straight, you like walk as a man, don't be shy, don't be submissive. Have courage. Courage, you show the courage in your walking, your speaking, in your action, that type of revolutionist. And as regards his early years of life, he was born in Yatayapuram, very remote place in the present-day Thoothukudi district. There was a princely state, Yatayapuram Jameen was there, and for some time he was a court poet there also. Then he worked for, he had his education in Tirunelveli. Later, he served as a teacher in Madurai, Sedupati school. And so he has a very strong foundation foundation of literature. Not only he had a strong foundation of the literature, he had the opportunity of knowing the life condition of the common people during that time. Then the interesting thing I have to tell you, many a times people would say, why Gandhi as Gandhi until he visit Madurai, he was having a different dress pattern. Only after visiting Madurai, when he happened to see the common people in the agricultural fields and all with this simple lion cloth, he has changed his dress pattern. He was having only with just lion cloth throughout his life, like an ordinary farmer, very of India. So there is a great transformation happened in the dress pattern of Mahatma Gandhi. Like that, many people, I do not know whether they know or not. Why is that Bharati used to have a turban in his head? Because that turban, the way, the style turban was worn by Bharati was not a common type of turban.
Thank you.
There is a different, though turban used to be adorned by the Tamil people, but the way he has worn that turban, exactly looking like the Sikh turbans. The thing is, because of the fact that he was impressed by one of his friends who was at that time in Varanasi. So he liked it. He liked that style. So he was wearing ordinary turban. It was not like Sikh, though he is not Sikh, but he was wearing like a Sikh, and he continued throughout his death. And also he used to wear coat, coat, but that coat was all used to have some kind of torn coat and other, but that doesn't bother. He used to keep that the type of dress pattern and other things. And so this is one kind of why is that he is having this type of turban styled practice. And another one important thing, and I have to tell you, when he was taking active part in the Congress party during that time, there were two groups, all of us, one is a moderate group, another one is extremist group. Bharati was identified with the extreme group, which means Bal Gangadhar Tilakar, all those people, VOC, and Kanchi Varadacharya, and so many people. But one thing you have to remember, even though Bharati was supporting the viewpoints of the extremists, not to get along with the moderate people, you should not think that he is the believer in violence. No, he was the believer in non-violence. In fact, all his writings were based on Advaitic philosophy, and some of his lines, some of the lines, even if somebody, someone gives you trouble, and don't try to take revenge, all these things he used to say. So which means what I'm telling, even though for independence struggle, he has taken the side of extremist, but his philosophy is non-violent philosophy, dharma, and all these things. He never believed in the direct activity of extremist activities. He didn't do anything of the sort, though some of his associates were doing those times, but he has somehow believed to support them. And another interesting thing I have to tell you, though I told his journalistic contributions were mostly when he was in Madras, today's Chennai. His life in Pondicherry, as I told you earlier, most productive, most constructive, most purposeful, not only by the production of some of the very good poem collections like Wheel Pattu, Panjali Sabadam, Kannan Pattu. Not only this, in addition to that, he was having the company of Sri Aurobindo, Lajpat Rai, and the VVS Iyer during that time. And Bharati and Aurobindo, I was told almost every day they used to speak, discuss all these things, and even for Aurobindo to run some of the magazines like Karmayogi and all, it was Bharati who helped, because Bharati had this journalistic experience of producing a magazine, all these things. And by the time Aurobindo settled in Pondicherry, he was totally taken away from the independent structure, because he has taken a different spiritual path. But Bharati, Bharati, though he is a spiritual person, but Bharati was not preaching spirituality. He was only propagating the nationalistic ideals. But interestingly, both of them have almost discussion every day. And those who have visited Pondicherry would would have known the Sri Aurobindo Ashram where Aurobindo lived, and the Bharati's residence in the Eastern Coil Street, just 200 or 300 meters away only. Very just a walkable distance, So, but their discussions have enriched them both, but many of those things have not yet been revealed or written by elaborately. But if somebody took that project, many things can be brought out. Another interesting thing, he had a very good friendship with P.O. Chidambaram Pillai. And it is unfortunate that some of the great freedom fighters of South India, especially Tamil Nadu freedom fighters role are not highlighted appropriately in the North Indian or national scene. V.O. Chidambaram's role was one such that what he did, what he suffered for the sake of independence. I mean, more than 14 years he lived in, he was forced to be imprisoned, and not only that, he did he ran a ship company opposing a Great Britain's ship trade, and so British government was so angry on him. At least British government, they can spare if you are simply do some freedom related activities, okay. But you are giving a tough fight in the sea trade and other things. They couldn't tolerate that. A single man giving a challenge to such a world empire of British. They couldn't tolerate, so they were crushed him like anything. And at last, Chidambaram Pillai lost everything, and he had to run a mobile kerosene vehicle at the last years of his life in Chennai. That is different thing. But he was supporting Lord Chidambaram Pillai, and many a times Subramania Bharati had difference of opinion with Mahatma Gandhi. And I do not want to criticize Mahatma Gandhi's standpoint, but all of us know how adamant, how strong he is. And Mahatma Gandhi was not, if I'm wrong, if I tell anything wrong, you can correct me. He was not much democratic in getting the opinions of the others, whereas he would only impose. He feels that what he says is upright, correct. So others have to follow or no. That is so. In couple of occasions, Bharati had some differences of opinion. Those things and all I do not want to elaborate further and further. But let us devote some more time on his contributions, works. Though he is known as the patriotic, he is known by his patriotic songs, and also the not only patriotic songs. He had a great vision. What are all he has visualized happened after his death. Aduvome pallu paaduvome ananda sudandaram aடைந்து விட்டோம் என்று. What does it mean? We would enjoy, we would dance, we would sing. For what? Because we have achieved freedom, because we have achieved independence. What a wonderful thing, yes, so many things. Yes, not only visualized better India, he was not only visualizing better India, he was visualizing a better position for women, he was visualizing a better world. And I tell you, because he was in the journalistic field, he could get some information about the happenings in the rest of the world. More especially, we had a lot of information about the conditions in Russia at the time. What was the people's suffering in Russia, how the Russian Revolution happened, all so many things. So he was continuously commenting upon those things, and as he was visualizing a new India, he has also visualized the new Russia. I don't know whether how many people have heard about it. Like in his writings, he used to say Nava India. Nava India means new India, not just old India, it is new India. Like that, he has also written Pudu Russia, new Russia, new Russia. So the thing is, he is having a lot of, so in his, by his nature, he is a social, he is with socialistic principles. Not because I'm not telling that he is having any kind of what to say, the leftist thing and all. His own, his ideas, his thinking, his principles, all are socialistic in such, in that way. So though all those things have been revealed in the poems, and especially um, he was though he was strong, he was strong, what to say, the follower of Hinduism, but he is dead against all kinds of superstitions that are in the Hinduistic religion. So he was not against Hinduism, he was a staunch Hindu, but he is against, yeah, all kinds of superstitious beliefs and practices or rituals of the Hinduism. Then, and not only Mahakavi Bharati visualized the political new India. Remember, not only the political India, he was also visualizing what to say, the self-sufficient India in economy also. For example, two line I want to read. There are so many things I can say, but just a line, because many people would always say this political vision, but he had also economic vision for India. I quote one or two lines. பட்டினில் உடையும் பஞ்சினில் ஆடையும் பண்ணி மலைகளென வீதி குவிப்போம் கட்டி திரவியங்கள் கொண்டு வருவார் காசினி வணிகருக்கு அவை கொடுப்போம். It's English translation. We make dresses from silk and cotton in quantities as large as mountains. They bring lot of wealth. The traders around the world to whom we give it dresses, because the kind of the dress during those days, how much it was essential, how much it was economically significant, we all know. So he was symbolizing all those things. And another thing, he was also visualizing so many, what to say, plans for the future India. In one of his songs, he was telling there should be a bridge between India and Sri Lanka. சிங்களத்தீவினுக்கோர் பாலம் அமைப்போம். And it is not only the column or the bridge, physical bridge. See, remember, he was also meaning the emotional bondage these two countries have. All these things. And all his lines are metaphorically rich, similes, enormous. And it's the interesting thing, any common man can understand his poems. It was not the condition until Bharati wrote poems. Even prior to him, even up to Ramalinga Swami also, Ramalinga Swami also couldn't make such a what to say, democratic way of bringing out the words. It is Bharati only made common man, whether he is a literate or illiterate, to understand each and every lines of the poems. It is remarkable. It's marvelous. Now you have the new poetry movement in Tamil, but I would say Bharati was the first one to, the pioneer to start that thing. And this, I was telling you, is basically a socialist. Just one phrase, one line, what he said. If I tell, you would understand the kind of socialistic ideals in his mind. He said in one of the songs, "Tani oruvanukku unavilayenil inda jagathinai adithiduvom." Tani oruvanukku unavilayenil inda jagathinai adithiduvom. What does that mean? If one single man suffers from starvation, we will destroy the entire world. What a great thinking. Which means there should not be poverty, there should not be hunger. Even one person should not have hunger, death. Then what is the use of having the whole world? And most of his poems, centering around religion, nationality, race, race in the sense, any kind of discrimination he was against, whether it is caste-based discrimination or color-based discrimination, whatever it is. And in the beginning, Professor Anand Keri also was telling about his how dead against the on caste system. I will also quote those two lines. சாதிகள் இல்லையடி பாப்பா குல தாழ்ச்சி உயர்ச்சி சொல்லல் பாவம் நீதி உயர்ந்த மதி கல்வி அன்பு நிறைய உடையவர்கள் மேலும். What he says, after this translation, you will understand. There is no caste system. It is a sin to divide people on caste basis. The ones who are really of a superior class are the ones excelling in being just, wise, educated, and loving. No one will become a high man, high caste man, simply because of that. Somebody becomes high on the basis of his education, on the basis of the love he has with the fellow human beings, on the basis of his just nature only. Somebody could be high. If you don't have these ideas, you are low. Not on the basis of caste, somebody is low or somebody is high. What a great thing here. And and I can go on elaborate, but I do not want to take much of the time because now after me, there will be someone, a couple of more sessions, and we will have interactions. And I once again, thank the organizers for giving me a wonderful opportunity of remembering, recollecting the great Mahakavi Subramanya Bharati. Thank you all.
Rumba Nandri, Professor Stella Perumal. Thank you. And now I request Shobhana. In the meantime, Professor Gyan Luigi has raised your hand. Professor Luigi.
No, thank you, Ananta. It was only a sign of appreciation. It was only a sign of appreciation. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Gyan Luigi. And now, Shobhana, please.
Thank you, Professor Antagiri. I would just like to add one thing over here, that Subramanya Bharati was not just a poet alone. He was a philosopher. He was a great thinker of his times who had the, we call it Manodharma, who had the Manodharma to oppose even not just the British, but even Gandhi, who was such a powerful person during those days. And his writings with the Khilafat movement and the other political happening were really worth reading, especially when it comes to understanding it from the macro point of freedom fighting. Bharati was someone who was way ahead of his times and thinker. He never ever agreed to the point that equality, Sanskrit scholar, the reading of those scriptures, he could actually put those points down to Gandhi and tell him, this is where you are going wrong. That is why they had a huge difference of opinion, and he had to then be chased by the British out of Madras to Pondicherry, and the French government at Pondicherry at that time gave him asylum, and he had to live in Pondicherry for a long time. And when he was living in Madras, his revolutionary thoughts were not clearly appreciated by the local people, and there were a lot of people who were opposed to his ideas and processes that he wanted to bring about as a change within the system. But somehow the man lived too short a life, but a very short and sweet life. And the legacy that he has left to us as his poems, especially his um, poem of when you talk about love, his love, the poems that he has written on love and the goddess Shakti are something that are so emotional that everyone would immediately connect, even if they didn't understand the language. That was the power of Bharati's words when it came to writing down what he could attain, that sublime level of blissfulness every time when he could write his poems. And that is why maybe Ma Shakti did not want him to live long with us early away from us. Anyway, thank you so much, Ananda, for giving me a chance to talk about him, because he has been someone who has been a part of every Tamilian's life who has lived from the early 30s, 40s to the 60s. So everybody knew who Subramanya Bharati was and what his poems were, especially his uh, only his love poems are something that you have to listen to understand the way this man could describe emotions in such a subtle manner. Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you, Sovana. Maybe one clarification.
Yes. Hello?
One or two
Hello?
themes. Hello. You can
Yeah.
kindly elaborate a little more. One is
Yes.
his philosophy, and
Yes.
just to listen to me for a minute. I am
Yeah.
raising one or two themes, then you can elaborate. And
Yeah.
because Professor Chelaperumal also
Yeah.
referred to the Advaitic philosophy of Subramanyam Bharati. So a little more about his philosophy. Secondly, what was his writing on Khilafat movement? And his writing on Khilafat movement, did it have any difference with Gandhi's view on Khilafat movement? Hello, Savana. Okay, maybe as Savana is coming, Professor Chela Perumal, would you like to elaborate these 2 points a little more? His philosophy and his writing on Khilafat, and what were some of the difference of opinion between Gandhi and Subramanyam Bharati?
Two things. One is base of Advaitic philosophy. Then the difference of viewpoint between him and Gandhi. And what is the third one? First one you wanted to say, Professor Ananta?
Yeah, his philosophy.
One is
Yes, the second is his writing on Khilafat movement. What did he write on Khilafat movement? You know, on Khilafat movement.
Oh, yeah.
Khilafat movement. And third thing is some of the difference of opinion between Gandhi and Subramanyam Bharati.
Some kind of debate and exchange of views have happened between Gandhi and Bharati. Not much are revealed, but Mahatma Gandhi was not comfortable at all with Bharati. I do not know whether I may be wrong or somebody could correct. When he was in Chennai, somehow there was one occasion Mahatma Gandhi refused to address the people in Chennai speech but that event was organized by Bharati. So because of some kind of verbal, I do not know, so difference of opinion, even Gandhi refused to come to the rally the very next day. But Bharati didn't bother; he himself managed those things. It is purely the difference, probably the kind of leadership role Mahatma Gandhi wanted to have. Leadership in the sense, he is adamant, and what he says to be followed. He thinks what he says is absolutely correct.
Just one request, Professor Chella Perumal. And there is a small urgency here. I may have to leave for 5 minutes. Ranveer, you please, just 1 minute. Ranveer, you moderate. I'm just coming in 2 to 3
Okay.
minutes. There is a little urgency. I request
Okay.
Ranveer to moderate. Thank
Sure,
you.
sure. Okay, sir.
Shobana can continue, because actually these 3 questions were addressed to Shobana, but because since she is not here, I'm only adding 1 or 2 things. I may not be completely in a position to answer all the questions. And regarding the Advaitic philosophy, which I myself mentioned, if you read, he was not openly propagating any kind of Advaitic philosophy, but all the basic tenets are in each and every line. Dharma, non-violence, the tolerance, or helping others, or love, all these things, it is inseparably there. And he could get all these things because of his strong learnings of Vedic philosophy, where when he was in Banaras, he learned a lot. He not only learned Sanskrit, he learned other. Even before going to Varanasi, he knows Sanskrit because of his family tradition. He is a Brahmin, and his father was a very, very conservative Brahmin. But the depthness in Veda happened when he was by his stay in Banaras, with the interaction with the people there. And so he has subsumed everything. It has, without any confrontation, it has come. Without any confrontation. And again, he didn't see Advaitic philosophy as a philosophy of religion. He was seeing that philosophy is for humanity, rationality, and the equality and equity, that way. Only this much I can add, because for many, whatever I say, there should be strong evidence. Without that, you can't narrate stories. So we have to be very.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I will ask you, Dr. Sovana, I think she is not there. I will ask about the question that Professor Anand Giri just asked about, the issue on the very like how Khilafat movement being envisioned by Bharati. So I request respected participant to kindly ask their question, or please indicate me in the chat box. I have also some observation. I just want to ask one question. At what time Subramaniam Bharati joined Indian freedom movement? This is the one question. Second question is about the issue of, it is very beautifully articulated in one of the PhD thesis on Subramaniam Bharati. Yesterday I was reading. There I find a kind of the writer envisioned Subramaniam Bharati as a bridge between North India and South India, right? So there, how do you see, like, of course, recently we can see there is a chair in the name of Subramaniam Bharati Chair in Banaras Hindu University. So, in that sense, how do you see Subramaniam Bharati's contribution, as a bridge between North India and South India, particularly on the issue of nationality? Nowadays, we can see, the kind of national movement, in the name of language, So he never ever, separate a nation, India with Tamil nation, right? So that is the very important thing that I want to ask, and particularly, how do we, understand the kind of learning that he draw from Russian Revolution, as you have already, highlighted, whether there is an impact of Russian Revolution on his thought, because he is a very short-lived personality. We cannot understand his whole, organic ideology for that matter. So how do you see, because kind of separation people draw, uh, you know, uh, suppose those who work for Indian freedom movement, for that matter, Swadeshi movement, and socialist vision. So is there any a kind of differentiation that you find uh, uh, in Bharati's socialist vision, for that matter? What kind of socialism he has, So, sir, over to you.
Regarding the particular years, so what I would say, between 1906 to 1920 is a very active period, this role in the nationalistic movements, freedom movement, with the role in his with the Congress Party, all these things. So, for example, in the year 1906, he was editing the Tamil Weekly India and also English newspaper Bala Bharatam, along with one MPT Acharya. Then in the year 1907, Bharati participated in the historic Surat Congress along with V.O. Chidambaram Pillai and also Mandayam Srinivacharya. And here, that was Surat Congress was very significant for Congress, all of you know. That in that Congress only, the division deepened much with the stalwarts of Congress, moderates and the extremists. He took a strong position along with the so-called extremists, especially Balagangadhara Tilak. Because Tilak openly supported armed resistance against the British. And then in the year 1908, British instituted a case against V.O. Chidambaram Pillai. And during that time, they were also trying to capture Bharati, but VOC was caught, whereas he has escaped. Bharati was escaped from there to Pondicherry, because Pondicherry was under French rule. After coming to Pondicherry only, he published two Tamil journals. One is India, another one is Vijaya, and English monthly, Bala Bharatam, and also another thing also, local weekly Suryodayam. All where we started. All those he started in Pondicherry, were banned in India. Then in Kadalur itself, that's what is the distance between Pondicherry and Kadalur, hardly a few kilometers, 5-6 kilometers. It was banned. So whatever he published, printed, and distributed could not reach the outside Pondicherry, but somehow he tried his level best to send it out. For that, many people helped him. And so these are all the periods which he was having a very active role. As I told, between 1906 to 1920, he was actively involved. After some, then before moving to Chennai, he was caught in Kadalur. Then somehow, because of the intervention of maybe Ramaswamy Iyer and some people, he could get some release, and then he lived for some time in Madras. Usually, I can say.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So now I would like to invite Professor Gyan Guli for his kind comment.
Yes, thank you very much. It was really very interesting for me. And well, I would like to express my congratulations. I would have yet a question because I have this impression that Bharati wanted to substitute as a kind of cultural operation the traditional caste system with a system of virtue. That is, he opposes in a kind of reasoning the superiority of some classes on the other, on the caste system, with another kind of superiority. That is, what counts is the degree of virtue which individuals have. This is the fundamental point. The virtue, the excellence, is not given by the caste, by the belonging to a caste, to the caste system. The excellence of the individuals is given by the degree of virtue which they have and which they can reach through their education, formation, behavior, and of course, correction of themselves. I think this is the first important point, that is substitution. That is, what counts is virtue and the degree of virtue and the effort, the engagement which every one of us is called to have and to exploit in order to reach virtue. And the second one is perhaps I have the impression that in his works, Bharati tend to give a metaphorical interpretation of the Mahabharata in the sense that he interprets the struggle within the Mahabharata as a struggle which is politically given in those days between the Indians, the force of the independence, and on the other side, the British oppressors. That is, it tends to reinterpret in a modern contemporary key the struggle and the fighting in the Mahabharata. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. I request Professor Challa Perumal to kindly note down these questions and will ask you at the end of the session. So, Miniti Pradhan.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are audible.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So, I mean, from Subramaniam Bharati, I listened to all his aspects of being a nationalist, poet, and thing. But what I like him from the perspective is like, no, he's the poet of the feminine. Actually. I mean, when he died in 1921, September 11th, then he left his legacy of writing to his wife and wife Chellamma and 2 daughters. As a poet, actually, he was mystic, visionary, and his advocacy for women reached a new height. Actually, he believed the women were the propagator of civilization, and they must write the laws and lead the society. So he says here one quote I have taken from his writing: civilization is taming down of men by women. Men indeed have till now been trying with the little success to civilize each other through sword and bullets, prison and cells, gibbets and the rack. but it has been a lot of women have no other weapon than the fables, parables, and the symbol in her work to civilize man. Where woman comes to art, and what is art if not the effort of humanity towards the divinity? This is really, it shows what type of equality mentality he had towards this. I mean, he was the first one to introduce the notion of property and leadership to the women. So he was always telling that if I am killed by the police, his wife to lead the march. And he always encouraged his wife to mingle with the guests, whoever comes home, and talk and keep her opinion and all these things. But sadly, when he died, his wife was also subjected to torture, like her hair was shorn off, her blouse was taken away. I want to ask, okay, he was also anti-Brahminical, but whether who took this legacy of equality and female rights further forward? That is one question. And one more question I want to ask, that why the role of the freedom fighters like Subramaniam Bharati was not highlighted in the mainstream of the national fighter. I mean, from my childhood, I never knew about him. When I grew up only, like I read and came to know about him. And there was a difference of opinion between Gandhi and Subramaniam Bharati. But later some article says that his daughter took to spinning wheel. I don't know whether does it mean that she also was a follower of Gandhi. Now we see one more question also. Like we see their daughter, granddaughter, they are only all trying to translate all his literary works into English. Why not other Tamil scholars has tried that before to bring it to the forefront or for the spotlight? So these are the 3-4 small questions, and Professor Perumal can put little bit light on that Agni and the other poems, like he has written about that Kumi dancer woman. If you will put little bit more light on that, it will be nice. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Meniti Pradhanji. And any respected participant, if you want to ask any question, kindly highlight in the chat box. Meanwhile, Dr. Devendra Kumar Tiwari, kindly be brief, ask any question or your comment.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to say something on this platform. My observation is a sort of appreciation to our distinguished speaker, Professor A. Chella Perumal, sir, for bringing the details, biographical details, philosophical ideas, poems, and social and political concern of Subramaniam Bharati. While sir was delivering his ideas, I noted out few things, particularly one very strong statement. It was opinion of Subramaniam Bharati. If one common man is suffering from starvation, will destroy the whole world. It is a very strong line, and there is a resemblance or similarity with this line with another line by a strong leader of America, Martin Luther Jr., when he says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So definitely, and I completely agree with the opinion of Minati Pradhanji when she said that since her childhood, she had been studying much more about mainstream leaders and why Subramaniam Swami Bharati has not been given that place as he deserved. Now, with the contribution of his speech by Martin Luther Jr., definitely he was assassinated, but he is known not only by Americans, but by all over the world. for his strong debate for the right of blacks people. So equally in India, whether by writing or by joining agitation or doing some movement for the freedom of India, definitely why Subramaniam Swamy was kept to the margin, definitely it is questionable. Another thing I noted down from the deliberations of our distinguished speaker is that Subramaniam Bharati was a strong follower of Hinduism, but at the same time, he was against superstitious practices. So definitely a kind of similarity in the thoughts of Vivekananda and Subramaniam Bharati is visible. Vivekananda was also a strong supporter of Hinduism, but at the same time, he was a modernist. He was against all superstitious practices. So definitely Subramaniam Bharati deserved to be kept in the category of Vivekananda or King Martin Luther Jr. But that position was not given to him. It is a kind of definitely a regret from my side. Definitely he should be given. So thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Devendra. Any other participant who want to ask or comment, please indicate in the chat box. Meanwhile, I would like to ask all those concerned to Professor Chella Perumal, sir. Sir, please, over to you.
Yeah, the two comments made by two people, Madam and Sir next, really all are very valid. Very good observations they made. So many good points they have clear. I can only add to them, nothing to confront that. Especially why is that Bharati was not given appropriate place in the general discourse of post-independence, what to say, in India. And it is always a fact that whoever is from South India, is however great he is, they are not properly recognized and in the mostly in the North Indian media and also so-called in the nationalist thing. Very insignificant role only given to the great Indian freedom fighters like Bharati, VOC, Kamaraj, all these things. But at the same time, if there is any national level of presentation, only the North Indian freedom fighters, North Indian leaders' contributions only highlighted. It is very sorry start of affairs. It is continuously going on in this country. It is not good. However, in spite of the fact that now slightly our Prime Minister Modi, wherever there is a possibility, he always recognizes Bharati's contribution and disseminate these things, and all. Some good things are also happening now. But it is the general thing. If anybody from South India, however great he is, he will be ignored, sidelined at the cost of only the North Indian leaders and the contributors only would be given prominence. It is very sorry state of affairs in this country. And regarding the women role, feminist role, women role regarding Bharati, very rightly pointed out, Madam. And in fact, many of the works of Bharati came to light, came to fore, the collections, everything, after the death of Bharati. That we should appreciate the role played by Bharati's wife Kannamma. She has struggled a lot. She has also faced all kinds of odds, Madam told, and also in spite of the fact that she has compiled, even she has written a small first biography on him, and not only the poems is scattered in many places, many magazines, many journals, she has collected and brought out. In addition to not only she published or tried to have the compendiums, she wanted to see to it it has reached the common public. But somehow it was for some time it was under the control of the copyright of some private organization, but that organization also were immediately sensible to make it common public. So it is rightly she has pointed out it is Bharati's own wife played a big role in popularizing the works of Bharati after his death, that is posthumously. Another interesting thing also she has pointed out, I also agree. Now, Mahakavi Bharati's great granddaughter, who is in Canada, she is writing and she is translating it in English. She is also doing good things. It is really why is that only their family has to do? Many all of us can do. Anybody can do, especially the translated works. Works still and not to the appreciable level. Mahakavi's works, Mahakavi Subramanian Bharati's works have been translated into English or other Indian languages. Done something. I'm not totally denying, but it is interesting that in Tamil Nadu, very effective, good collections. One after another things coming. Very systematic collections. What to say? Chronological collections of. His writings in the chronological order, thematic. There are so many scholars of Bharati. In fact, in the Tamil research field, in Tamilology, there is a field of research, Subramani Bharati EL. So many people are contributing, new evidences are taken. Some of his old writings, the newspapers, which were in some archives, either in this country somewhere, they are brought on all these things in Tamil. Perfectly, properly, Bharati's works are properly highlighted, disseminated. In Tamil, it is really going on well. It is very unfortunate that he is an international poet. He is a national poet. Unfortunately, he was not given due importance. His works were not properly disseminated, both in English and also in Indian languages. It is very sorry state of affairs, in spite of the fact that we are observing his 100th death anniversary and 130th birth anniversary. All these things are there. And another interesting thing, or later another observed gentleman, he was very nicely touching upon the lines of Bharati, how strong is the socialistic ideals with the Martin Luther King, and also this standpoint of Hinduism minus superstitions, that Vivekananda's role. And actually, Bharati was highly influenced by Vivekananda, because of his close association with Nivedita. She was considered the disciple of Vivekananda. Okay. So now all observations are good observations, enriching observation. I'm very happy about it. Thank you.
Hello, Ranveer. I think Minoti wanted to ask a question. She raised her hand.
Yes.
No, I was just when he was telling that.
Hello.
Hello.
You can switch on your video. We can see you.
Okay. Yeah, I already have asked the question. So many questions actually I have asked, but this one I'm just one suggestion, or just we can look that he was telling, no, like in the north they have not given enough importance to the South Indian freedom fighters. So I just wanted to say whether it is the curriculum makers who did not consider to take some freedom fighting figures from South to add into the curriculum, so that we didn't know anything when we were studying in the school or colleges. Like that one, just I wanted to raise that issue. So that's why I raised my hand.
Thanks.
It is true. Curriculum or media or politician, all I don't say totally ignore, but very insignificant importance only they give. But they deserve much more place, which they North Indian curriculum, politicians, media do not give. Not only in the case of Bharati, but so many things.
So, Cello, I am thinking about this theme now. Subramanyam Bharati, he knew many languages, and also French, and Arabic a little bit. At the same time, he has a great love for Tamil. And of course, being with Tamil, and all of us have great love for Tamil, and many of us think that Tamil is one of the most richest language in the world. But in Tamil Nadu, in the Tamil country, there is a sense of Tamil pride, and which is sometimes becomes a little bit of closed pride, and which can be a kind of a closed sense of pride, which is sometimes noticeable in discourse about Tamil in Tamil Nadu. And I just wish to know, in that context, Subramanyam Bharati, his love for Tamil, was it also the usual, love for Tamil as the richest, as the great, and a sense of pride, or whether it was also nurtured by a sense of worldness, an openness to the world. I do not just want to use the word cosmopolitanism, which has a connotation, but I just wish to know that the sense of Tamil openness to the world, and which is also part of reality. Tamil society has interacted with the world throughout millennia. And so that dimension in Subramanyam Bharati's work, and in what way he was open to the world, and how his love for Tamil, whether it was just Tamil chauvinism or it was much more than that.
He is really beyond the so-called close the pride or chauvinism and all. In fact, that is the reason why I can put it very plainly. It is Subramanya Bharati was not properly highlighted by the so-called Tamil pride parties like Dravidian parties and all. They also sideline him. They also give insignificant position to Bharati, because though he wrote in Tamil, though he loved Tamil, he was an international man. He was, though he is a nationalist poet, but all his ideals are human ideals, human ideals for humanity. If you deeply see, it is nothing like not parochial, not Noroistic, not regionalistic, not even about a particular linguistic thing. If you read all his writings, it always beyond the region, beyond language, beyond religion, beyond even, I would say, nation also. See, he wants freedom for India, not purely from the point of view of state formation. He wanted freedom for not only for India, for other colonized countries also. So he wanted human freedom, that's there. So that is one thing. Another thing that there are some sections of the Tamil say that closedness, but not all. Only the insignificant closedness views only been highlighted by the other people, making branding, stereotyping the whole Tamils are like that. Not at all. No, not at all. Another thing regarding the Bharati, as Professor Giri has nicely pointed out, he knows many languages, but he wrote mostly in English and also Tamil. and you will be surprised to know he has translated Bhagavad Gita and so many Vedic things, some of the things from directly from Sanskrit to Tamil, or some of the things from the English to Tamil. So he did he did what all he could do in his short span of life. He didn't want to explore these kinds of producing literatures in other languages, though he was capable of, but he had to limit certain things, And but at the same time, though he loved Tamil, he has also loved all the languages. Even there is one of his songs. யாமறிந்த மொழிகளிலே தமிழ் மொழி போல் இனிதாவது எங்கும் காணோம். In that song also, or in other some of these songs, he used to talk about good qualities of each and every language he knows. How sweet the Telugu is, how great Sanskrit is, how good in some respects Bengali is. So like that, he is a great lover of all languages. He happens to be a Tamil, loved Tamil also. That way you have to say. Still, I tell you, though now Subramania Bharati's name has been now, at least now, being propagated is more than little bit. Still, his works are not properly disseminated, not properly highlighted in Hindi or English or in the other Indian languages. Still, many things have to be done. But Subramania Bharati, though he is a Tamil poet, though he was having a patriotic life, but he is beyond. He was a human poet. He was a humanitarian poet. Now that should be brought out to the fore. But this type of discourses are one kind of such attempt.
Thank you, Professor Perumal. If I may just one, what are some of his writings in English? And secondly, what is the, pathway of his translation? His style of translation, and he was associated closely with Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo also translated from Sanskrit to English. And Sri Aurobindo also learned Tamil. And he also tried to translate, I think, Tirukural. So if you can reflect a bit about translation and possible dialogue between Sri Aurobindo and Subramaniam Bharati on translation.
Yeah, Bharati himself has translated, as I just now told, Bhagavad Gita he has translated, and some of Vedas he has translated, and many of the things, he has translated from Tamil to English, especially in a tidbits manner or articles manner. Most of the Tamil works he has highlighted for the English readers, and he wrote many things original in Tamil, whereas translations in from Tamil to English or from other languages to Tamil. It is, many of these works were not in the collections or book format. Many things, because he wrote most of things, every day he used to write, every day he used to write, and simultaneously he was running so many journals. He was also working for another big journal, daily, Swadeshi Method. So all these were compiled later only, and also for some of his own collections, sometimes he has more or less begged the people for some money to bring out some books and all. He faced a lot of difficulties. He was facing not only poverty, many of his works he couldn't brought out, and he felt so bad about it. He has written all these things. For one particular work, I do not remember, some particular work, he had a manuscript. He wanted to publish it, and he didn't have a file for that. He was pleading for that, writing letters. Even he has given an open plea in one of the newspaper in English and Tamil, but he didn't receive any kind of appreciable amount of money. He felt so bad about it. So he was struggling not only for running the family, even to bring about his books properly. All happened only after his death only, posthumous thing only. And for that, we have to give credit to Bharati's wife, Kannamma. She did a lot of collections, anthologies. It was she who did it. And it is one thing also fortunate now, there are so many Bharati scholars. Bharati scholars are present in India, Tamil Nadu. They go to nook and corner, wherever there are public libraries or public libraries, private libraries, or Indian library in London or France, wherever there is a possibility, they are bringing up even a small scribblings of Bharati also bringing out and all. So very constantly new works. Some recently I have read one short story he wrote in Tamil. Only now, last year only for the first time it is published. About many things were in manuscript form only, in his own handwritings. All so many things. Only thing is, it is still there are still a lot more is to be done to bring outside world in Tamil as well as in the other Indian languages, Bharati's works to be brought out. In Tamil, it has happened on an appreciable level, but it has not happened on an appreciable level in English, Hindi, and other Indian languages.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. I have one observation. I think Subramanyam Bharati is considered to be the Ashavadi Kavi. And I don't find a kind of cultural pride so far as the Tamil nationality is concerned. And Bhasha Sambandhit Matbhed, a kind of conflict between language happened even during Congress Adhiveshan. And it was Subramanyam Bharati who invited Bipin Chandra Pal in South India. So he always a kind of tried to make a kind of environment, and particularly if you understand the primacy of, he never ever accepted British hegemony as done by Jyotirao Phule. How you connect it to the masses. Poet main task is to transform the collective consciousness of masses. Therefore, it is very required. It is very important to talk in a very indigenous language. He never ever wrote anything against Brahmin Sanskrit hegemony. He never ever wrote. He always asked about Brahminical hegemony. He always fight for Brahminical hegemony, or so that for that matter Hinduism. And it is very important to understand the pro-feminist approach of Subramanyam Bharati, as being highlighted by you and also Miniti Pradhan. We feminists never even talked about the contribution of Raja Ram Mohan Rai, contribution of Jyotirao Phule, as a movement, as a feminist, pro-feminist leader who initiated the very idea of feminism in India. So in that terms, we can also envision his idea in 21st century. Thank you.
You are right. Correct observation you have made. And one more thing, not directly what you mentioned, is, because we have emphasized some kinds of difference of opinion between Bharati and Gandhi, but the same Bharati only has written a very good poem, Vazhani Yamman in the Vayettu Natillam. So he has written a very great poem on Mahatma Gandhi, and that poem is still relevant. He was praising Gandhi like anything. He also recognized the leadership role of Gandhi, though there was a difference of opinion. Bharati didn't reject Gandhi. He felt it is Gandhi could lead Gandhi could lead, and Gandhi is a very, very, what to say, precious being. We have to protect him, and that way you can't afford to lose Gandhi. Something like that. So many things. So we were like praising Gandhi. He had songs. Only those songs every year in the October to Mahatma Gandhi Jayanti. Always in Tamil Nadu, throughout Tamil Nadu, people sing the song of Bharati on Gandhi. That is also to be highlighted. Because there should not be any kind of branding or overemphasis of all these things. And as you are rightly pointed out, Gandhi Kumar Gautam pointed out, Bharati is against any kind of hegemony. That is caste hegemony, language hegemony, even leader hegemony, or party hegemony, or ideology hegemony. He was such a, so that I always say he was humanitarian and well ahead of his time. Sometimes it is, so that was because he was well ahead of time, people couldn't recognize things. It took a lot of time for people to realize. That way we have to understand. And yes, never we were never a chauvinist or of anything. He used to appreciate good of everything, and we should not be, though he has written in Tamil, but he was, as you have rightly pointed out, he was not disrespecting any language. He was not highlighting only Tamil. As he was highlighting Tamil, he was also equally highlighting all the languages. In one of the Tamil poems, he was telling Telugu is the most sweetest language. That is that in Tamil we have a song by Bharati, most sweetest language. India is Telugu. So, but again, it was not mere metaphorical. What he says, what he meant, what he said, what he meant. That is also there.
Yes, and one important observation when we think about Aurobindo, or in terms of, and when we think about Subramaniam Bharati died in 1921. So it means very short-lived personality. So he could have also transformed like Aurobindo, in later part of. So we can also envision him, if he was, if he were like a man of 90 years, he could have transformed. I'm asking about a kind of narrow nationalist leader, somehow we envision him also. So with the after, definitely, we should hypothetically imagine about his life in post-independence India. Then definitely he will choose the path of
For
ahimsa.
all thinkers, there are always two faces, young and mature. Even for Marx, people say young Marx and mature Marx. So
Yes, yes.
for Aurobindo also, the early Aurobindo writing and works are different, and matured Aurobindo is writing the works different. So it is very unfortunate that we didn't have the plum highly matured Bharati. We had only very youngest Bharati, that all these things. Had he continued, had he lived quite a little bit, it would have been much more enriching for all humanity, language, all these things. It was really unfortunate.
So
He was a
with these
creative
words,
person. Was not a, he was a very creative person. Very creative person. Well ahead of the time, against all kinds of humanity.
yes, as you have also highlighted, he was the one who started cartoon in
Yes.
newsletter.
Sense
So
of humor also. One
uh,
they put here. You should have some sense of humor. You cannot be so serious to create a hard cartoon. And he had the ability of drawing. That is also there.
yes. So Professor Giri,
Yes, please. Thank you. Now, in our midst, we have Bharat Bhushan Mahanti from Rourkela. And any other friends, if you would like to make an observation, please. Bharat Bhai. Okay, in this case, we can slowly come to a close, Ranbir.
Yes, Devendra, Dr. Devendra, kindly give.
I 1 minute.
Yes,
I
yes.
just want
Before
to read.
Devendra, I wanted to
I
invite
just
you.
want to read one poetry because
Sure,
some
sure, you
special
can.
occasion of Navratri is going on. So I
Please,
just
please.
may I? Yeah.
Before that, actually, I have been able to unmute, and I would like to pay my gratitude to both Anand Bhai and Professor Shela Purumal. I'm sorry, I have been trying to learn Tamil because I have been going to Pondicherry since 1968, but I could not learn Tamil and pronunciation also. I have had many Tamil friends, many Tamil friends. I'm grateful because I was very curious to know about Subramaniam Bharati because when Sri Aurobindo arrived in Pondicherry and he was the person who welcomed him and then they had got a very good relationship. And I knew that he's a great poet and great nationalist, but details I did not know. I had never tried to see through Google, but today he has given there has been a very a sort of illuminating discussion, and I'm obliged to all of you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to all of you.
So
Thank you so
Bharat
much.
Bhai,
Again,
Bharat Bhai, we
yes, please.
welcome you to our Sahachakra journey. So we request you to join every Sunday. So Randhir and myself and all of our friends, and Bharat Bhai is a very deep seeker, and we are enriched by your presence. So please join us. And
I'll be benefiting. Now, yeah, sister was she wanted to read out a poem. Let her read out. Thank you so much. I'll be surely most of the days I'll be surely joining it. I have been I had, though I have studied engineering and then I worked in steel plant and all that. I have literary inclinations, so I'll be very happy to join your group. I'll be grateful for these all your efforts. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
thank you. And just one request. In the meantime, we have Dr. Srinivasan on the chart. So we invite Dr. Srinivasa kindly, kindly speak with us about your question. We would like to hear your voice, please, and then we'll listen to Minati's point. Dr. Srinivasan.
Sir,
Yes, Dr. Srinivasan.
sir, good evening, sir. So it's Pranam, sir. So it's a great effort to bring Subramania Bharati to the national level. I am very glad and proud. I'm a very serious disciple of Subramania Bharati, I can say. Mostly he is placed as a Tamil poet, but I think he is not a Tamil poet alone. He should be placed in the place of many writers like in Tamil, like Kamban, Ilango. There are so many great legends out there. So he is in that series actually. He is not only thinking about just about the Tamil Nadu alone. He is thinking very globally, and you can, if you read his that is his side of devotional side, or I can say the spiritual side, definitely if you understand those verses, we can accept him as a guru or a jnani, actually I can say. So such a wonderful poet he is. Though his words are towards patriotism or the Tamil love, but that side actually, mostly if you are taking in the spiritual side of Bharati, it's extraordinary actually. We can learn a lot, as Professor Adimulam said. He's really an Advaiti, so we can understand the Vedantic knowledge actually in a very simple way. Actually, he's presenting it in a very simple way. So if it should be translated in many Indian languages, his verses should be translated in many Indian languages. That will be beneficial to we Indians as well as or global things, because this works should be at par with Gitanjali, I can say, but it is not recognized as Gitanjali. That's a thing actually, because it's at most equal, or even I can say it is parallel with Gitanjali, but its verses have not been translated much in Indian languages. So that's the thing. So he's a great poet to be admired, to be followed. I can as Adimulam sir said, he even wrote about, though he's an extremist, his guru is Tilak actually. He followed only, he followed extremism. Most of these leaders are Bipin Chandra Pal or Aurobindo or Tilak. Here it is V.O. Chidambaram Pillai. He admired actually Mahatma Gandhi also. That one verse actually, as he said, Adimulam sir said, Valgeni Amman Vayattu Naattilellam Thalvutru Varume Minchi Viduthalai Thavarikattu Valvattu Indradamur Bharatha Desam Thanai Valvikka Vanda Emman. So it is the most destructive state India was there. So you are coming for rejuvenated, you are coming for making it live. So that such a verses actually. So he's a wholesome poet actually, I can say. He's touching every point. Actually, feminism, as he said, actually, he is the first man who talked about feminism, but he got that idea from Sister Nivedita only. Before that, he may be a non-feminist, but he got that idea from Nivedita, Sister Nivedita only, when he met her in Calcutta. So thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to say
Now,
some words.
thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. We wish to know about you. Please kindly tell us about you, where you are, and please give us your number. We invite you to join us every Sunday, please.
Sure.
You can put your name and email and number in the chat box, please. We'll follow it up.
Okay, sir.
And tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you?
I'm in Dindikal, a southern part of Tamil Nadu. I am actually not a literary person. I am a engineering professor actually. I studied actually mechanical engineering, and I am a mechanical engineering professor. But I have some interest on literature also.
And how did you get to know about our meeting? From Facebook?
Yeah, no, sir. I just followed actually Adimulam sir on Facebook. So he posted this thing, and because it's on Subramaniam Bharati, I am delighted to join.
Lovely. So we are thankful to you. And just one request, we have a message from Gauranga Behera. So maybe we'll just hear his thought for a moment.
Yes.
So Gauranga Bhai, please share your thought. Hello, Gauranga.
Yeah, good evening to everybody. Actually, I was not knowing much about Subramaniam Bharati. So it gave me an opportunity to know about the great poet, freedom fighter, and also a revolutionist. So it was indeed a very good job on the part of the organizers to bring such a good personality into the limelight. Actually, what Madam Pradhan told, even in our childhood days, we are also not told anything about Subramaniam Bharati. Maybe his writings and his good work was only limited to Tamil Nadu, not beyond Tamil Nadu. But to me also, the government of Tamil Nadu has not taken enough steps to promote or to make Subramaniam Bharati known to the rest of the India or the whole of the world, I can tell. So such a nice personality who lived for a very short time, but it was a very worthy time, I can tell. So he deserves little better than what he has got so far. It is my own feeling. And particularly what I have heard about him, he died because he was attacked by temple elephant. I am not very sure, but still what I have heard about him. So that was also a very, if it is true, that is also a very, I can say, fearful or a very unfortunate incident. So anyway, thanks to organize, I only because I have not read any of the writings of Mr. Subramaniam or late Subramaniam Bharati, but it indeed gave me a lot of things known about the great poet and a freedom fighter. Thank you.
Thank you, Gauranga Bhai.
Thank you.
Where are you based, please? Where are you based?
Actually, presently I am in Bhubaneswar. I am a retired banker. I was in State Bank of India for a pretty long time. I retired 1 year back. So I am not a poet or I am not a literary person in this line, but I like the webinars of such type. But that's much.
How
Thank
did
you,
you know about this program?
I think you and me are the product of the same high school. You posted in our high school group. From that only I came to know about this program.
अच्छा अच्छा गौरंग भाई आपण महापात्र हाई स्कूल ना
Exactly. I am Mahapatra High School Rupsa product. So you posted in that group. So I thought that I should attend the program and know something about the great poet.
So मोर number तो अच्छी, please send me a message. I would like to speak with you. Namaste.
Okay,
So
Oscar. Thank
now Ranveer, sorry we took a little time, and now
Thank you. Thank you. We
we
are
can-
making a world of known people.
And,
So, Dr. Devendra, sir, please.
maybe before Devendra, we'll just listen to Minati's poem, you know.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, Minati, please.
I am boring every session with my poem.
No, no,
so
no, no.
Ranveer is forgetting. Okay. Happy Navratri to everyone. So just before reading the poem, I'll just quote something. It is like, no, every Navratri is synonymous to awakening the feminine divine energy. So just I will read one quote, then I'll go for the poem. So every woman who awakens courage within herself is Durga. Every woman who awakens the transformation within herself is Kali. Every woman who awakens devotion with hers is Parvati. Every woman who awakens nurturing within herself is Annapurna. And every woman who awakens the Shiva within herself is Shakti. So Navratri is celebrating the goddess within. So here one poem, this is actually my poem. I have written this, that is written before few years. So that is Durga, the divine mother. The title is Durga, divine mother. It goes like this. You are the inertia, the passion, the transcendence, the divine mother's feminine energy in its full glory. You are the inertia, the passion and transcendence, the divine mother's feminine energy in its full glory, descended from its heavenly abode to destroy devils and demons. In these 9 days of joy and festivity, chakras are awakened. The echoes of your hymns, the unfathomable power, empowering the whole world. But can't you see, mother, that your offsprings are in constant distress, lost in Me Too hashtag, Me Too campaign, fighting to remain safe every single day, from the womb to term, against every discrimination, to get a life of their own. Use your trishul to kill all the social evil. Use your chakra to slash the blind customs. Use your sword to cut the inequalities, and your mace to smash the glass ceilings. Your arrow to land in self-confidence. Your conch to blow away the harassment. Your lotus to spread the fragrance of happiness and make the world beautiful with your eternal presence. Thank you. Thank you for the attention and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Yes, Dr.
Hello.
Devendra.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to extend this formal vote of thanks. On behalf of Swadhyay Sahachakra Circle for Co-Learning, Vishwanidham Center for Asian Blossoming Puducherry, Chennai, and on behalf of Raffles University, Neemrana, I would like to extend this vote of thanks to each and everybody present here, and particularly our distinguished speaker, Professor A. Chella Perumal, sir, for your brilliant presentation and answering all the queries raised by different discussants. And particularly, I'm expressing my deep felt gratitude to you because like some of the other participants, I was also unknown to Subramaniam Bharati, but the way you presented and the kind of deliberation you made me also updated with so many details related to Subramaniam Bharati. So thank you very much, sir. I would like to express my gratitude and thanks to Professor Anand Giri, sir, for being the moderator and convening the session as usual in a brilliant way. So accept my gratitude, sir. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to express my deep felt gratitude to Dr. Shobna for her brilliant discussion and highlighting so many aspects and literature and philosophy of Subramaniam Bharati. So my gratitude to Dr. Shobna ma'am also. So thank you very much to Dr. Shobna. I would like to express my deep felt gratitude to Revered Dr. Justice Meena Vigombar, the patron of Raffles University Neemrana, for giving us freedom to organize such kind of events. I also express my gratitude to Professor Diwakar Goli, Vice Chancellor of Raffles University, for being the source of motivation to organize such kind of activity. I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Gyan Loy Gi sir for being very active and very prompt observer of the ongoing talk. So my gratitude and thanks to you, sir, also. I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Srinivasan, sir, Dr. Bharat Bhushan, sir, Sri Gurung Behra, sir, for being available and expressing your opinions on this August moment. And my gratitude is due to everybody whosoever was a part of this talk. If I have forgotten some names, so kindly forgive me. And lastly, how can I forget to mention the contribution of Minati Pradhanji for raising so brilliant questions and finally reading the poetry. And ma'am, I would like to compliment your poetry is not boring. It was very relevant to the present context and full of thought. You describe the importance of Ma Durga and the kind of power she has, and your appeal to eradicate all the evils of world was very relevant and heart-touching. So thank you very much, ma'am, for presenting your poems and observation. Last but not the least, I would like to express my gratitude to convener of this session, Professor Randhir Gautam, for planning, organizing, and exhibiting everything in a grand way. Thank you very much. Namaste, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Devendra sir, I want to
Namaste.
say something. You have to thank me for something else also. Last time you were absent, I was doing informal vote of thanks from your behalf.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
you
you
so
and
much.
thanks everyone.
Thank you so much.